Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first of the placement videos. Now over the next few weeks / months I'm going to have quite a bit of placement content coming up, and I thought that this would be the best place to start because number one, it'll kind of set out what kind of things you guys want to know, and number two, I know a lot of the people that watch my videos don't have a placement or don't study teaching or anything like it, and because of that I thought that starting off here would kind of give a good overview of what placement is, what it entails, and in doing that, when the more specific placement videos start coming, it's not going to be like completely out of context. So as always, I asked for questions over on my Instagram and I've had a look at them all and I've kind of formulated them into an order that I feel makes sense, and I'm just going to go through and we're going to have a big old chat about placement. I honestly can't believe that it's got to this time already, like, what? Honestly, this is the most responded to question sticker that I've ever put on my Instagram before. You guys have a lot of questions and some of them I've taken and I'm going to make into an entire video of their own. These ones are just kind of a little bit more general and something that I feel like I can talk about briefly enough in this type of video. Okay, to start off, I wanted to talk about prep. Now, I got a few questions in terms of prep, if it's your first year or your first placement and you've never done anything like it before, and also in terms of balancing prep with uni work. And the first thing that I want to say on this topic is prep isn't actually that much. I feel like especially at Aberdeen Uni it's made out to be quite a thing, but there isn't that much that you can do. As long as you've emailed your school and they know that you're coming, that is the most important thing. So if you haven't done that, do that ASAP. Make sure that they know that they're expecting you, and you can also kind of find out what class you're going to be in. But other than that, there's not that much. I know, speaking from my experience at Aberdeen University, they put quite a lot online. So on our like Blackboard, My Aberdeen portal type thing, alongside our course subjects and stuff, we also have a section for our school placements. And this is where they put up a lot of documentation, and of course it's important that you know about it, but don't think that you need to sit and read through the full like curriculum for excellence guide. You don't need to sit and read through the full standard for provisional registration. You don't need to sit and read through all the handbook and everything, because at the end of the day that's just there for when you need it. You don't need to read it all before you go into it. Obviously, yes, it's important to have a good idea of what's expected of you, but don't stress yourself out about reading all this documentation, because at the end of the day it's not worth it. I'd say the most important thing for you to do is, number one, email your school, try and get your class teacher's email and find out a little bit about the class. Number two, ask if there's anything that class teacher wants from you, because if there is something that you can give them, that'll make it easier, but you don't need to send them everything if they don't want it or need it. Number three, have a look over the tasks that you've been assigned to do while out on placement, because this is the stuff that you're going to actually need to do. For us, we get given a document that kind of outlines what tasks we're going to need to do when, and those are the most important things to wrap your head around, especially at the beginning. And number four, have a quick skim through the information, see what it is that you think you're going to need, and print some of it off so you have it for when you go in on the first day. I'm talking things like a blank timetable so that you can write your class's timetable in. I personally always like to print off the tasks that we have to do so that I can go through and highlight them. I feel like that just makes it easier for me to understand what I'm going to need to do when. And the other thing that I printed off last year, which I'm just going to take from my old folder, is the standards for provisional registration. Although you don't need to sit down and read through it, it's good to have a copy for when you're doing your daily reflections and things. On to the next topic, your first placement. What is expected of you? What are you going to need to do? And I'd say don't stress yourself out about this. Go in on the first day and just get to know people there. If it's your first placement, the class teacher and the school are going to know that it's your first placement, and they don't expect you to have it all figured out. Like, they don't even expect people like me to have it all figured out. They don't even have it all figured out themselves. When it is your first placement, it's about getting a feel for working within the classroom environment. You're not set against all of these standards that you need to meet. Especially in the first few days, all you need to do is make a good impression with the teachers, make a good impression with the children, and take it from there. My first placement was in second year, and we went 1 day a week for like a few weeks at a time, and for that first block Literally we didn't do much at all. We might have taken a reading group now and then or worked with a certain group for maths, but we weren't expected to plan anything. We weren't expected to lead a lesson. We weren't even expected to take control over a full group until much later. Your first placement is just designed to get you into it. Make the most of it and just have fun. Don't stress out because there is plenty of time for that later. The next few questions I got were about workloads, particularly lesson plans, reports, readings. And I just want to start in terms of the balancing placement with readings. We didn't get assigned any readings to do while we were on placement. I don't know if it's something that's different at your university or if the course has changed. But when we were on placement, that was our number one focus. We didn't get given any uni work to do at that time. It was all just based purely around placement. We were advised to do extra reading if it was relevant or if it made sense to what we were doing, but we didn't have set readings that we had to do while on placement. Obviously, it is good to keep yourself up to date with theory and stuff, but don't stress yourself out about having to read when there are way more important things to do while on placement. And those way more important things are things like your lesson plans, your reports, your daily reflections, your prop forms, all of those types of stuff. That takes number one priority over doing like academic reading. And in terms of those things, the workload is quite a lot. There's no two ways about it. The university do tend to give you quite a bit to do while you're on placement, and that can be quite stressful, and it does mean dedicating hours and hours and hours of your after school time to doing it, but that's just the way it has to be, and at the end of the day it's going to help you in the long run. I am very warm. I'm going to take this jumper off. I think the heating's just come on. Takes off one beige item of clothing to reveal another. Wow, look at that colour. There we go, that's better. But yes, the workload is a lot. Last semester especially, when there is a lot more expected of us in terms of lesson plans and delivering lessons, there does become a lot. I would get home from school at about 4ish, and the first thing that I would do would be my daily reflections because I didn't want to forget what I'd done that day. And that took me ages. I need to try and find a way to cut down the time it takes to do a daily reflection because at the end of the day, they are not the most important thing and they took up a lot of my time. And after I'd done my daily reflections, that's when I would then do any marking or stuff related to the day that had just been. I'd then do lesson plans and organisation for the following day, and then if I had to do a prop form or something, I would then do it after that. And it does sound like a lot. It is a lot. I'd say the earliest I got finished my work last semester was maybe 8 PM and normally it would be about 10 PM. Like, it was heavy. And it is annoying and it doesn't make sense because a lot of that time is taken up doing paperwork for the university, and although it is important, I feel personally that I would way rather spend time making lesson plans and organising stuff for that placement rather than doing paperwork. And I know that it's important, but I just think it's stupid the amount of time that we spend and the amount of paper that we waste on all of this stuff that at the end of the day is going to go in the bin. But I would just like to say I am not trying to scare you or put you off in any way, shape or form. I'm literally going off of my last placement and that was the busiest by far. My second year placement, there wasn't loads of workload to do. But obviously the stuff that is fresher in my memory is the stuff that's just happened. I'd say in second year the workload was probably about half of that it was last semester. But yeah, it's just one of those things, you've got to do it and you've got to find what works for you. It is a lot, but the one thing that I like to keep in mind is that it is for a short period of time. Keep the end goal in sight. Whether that end goal is the end of the placement, whether that end goal is the end of the month, whether that end goal is the end of the week, just always think that it will get better. The workload is a little bit heaps, I'm not gonna lie, especially when you have been used to uni. Okay, now on to lesson plans. Have you had to plan some lessons yet? How have you found it? Tips for lesson planning. Yes, I have had to do lessons. In my second year, which was my first placement, I was in a primary 1 classroom, and as I said, that placement was very chill. It was just about getting to find your feet in the classroom. And by the end of it, we did do a few little lessons here and there, but they were very short. I don't think any of them were for the full class. We kind of just did little group activities, and that was actually really quite fun. It gave you an idea of what to expect and what kind of goes down well. Last year, so third year, my first semester, I was in a nursery, so what I was doing then was a lot more activity planning rather than lesson planning, and because of that I wasn't planning for a full class or a specific group of people. I was planning an activity that the children could do. If they wanted to do it, they would do it. If they didn't, they would go and do something else. So again, that was very chilled out and relaxed. I did plan some great activities, I'd like to say, but there wasn't like a full lesson plan or anything like that. Last semester, however, I was in a primary 4-5 classroom, and that was kind of my first experience of planning an actual lesson. And I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. I got quite worried for this because obviously beforehand I'd never actually planned proper lessons. It had just been more activity based stuff. So I did get worried about planning for everyone in the class, or even just standing in front of everyone and talking at the board. Like, I hadn't done that before. But it was great. Like, I really enjoyed it, and it kind of gave me a little bit of a confidence boost as well. I would say top tip number 1, listen to your teacher, work off of what they're going for, because if they've got some background already established with the pupils, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get them engaged. All of the planning for your lessons should be done with your support teacher. You want to kind of stick to what they're doing already, because they have their kind of plan set out and you don't want to come in and disrupt that. So definitely listen to what your support teacher is telling you. My teacher last semester wasn't fussed about me running like every single lesson past her, but we would always sit down at the end of one week or the start of the next and talk about what lesson she wanted me to do for that week. I would run it past what she was doing, so I was making sure that we weren't covering the same content. And that's also when we'd kind of establish if there was any group work happening, if she wanted me to work with one specific group after I'd taken the main lesson, things like that. The way that it kind of worked out for me last semester is that I would do a handful of the English or math lessons in a week. I also kind of took over the topic and teaching of French for the full time that I was on placement, and that was fun because by taking over a full subject area, I was then able to kind of control the way that I wanted it to go, whereas taking one lesson every so often, I had to really fit into what the teacher was planning. Whereas with French, I was doing all, so I was able to just do whatever I fancied, and that was actually really fun. So yeah, in terms of tips for lesson planning, definitely always refer to your teacher, especially if it's the first time that you're doing it. Work off of what they've done in the past, and then you can start to see what works for you. I know that a lot of teachers like to use resources like Twinkle, and although we are told to kind of steer away from them at university, if a teacher is using them, definitely have a look at what's on there. I feel like the main thing that universities worry about is that we're going to become dependent on a pre-programmed set of lesson plans, but it's fine to go and have a look as well. See if there's something that takes your eye and maybe merge 2 of the lessons together or add something on the end of it. You don't have to just do what it says on the tin. Another place that is really useful is Pinterest. If you're ever stuck for lesson plans, teacher Pinterest is an absolute treasure trove, so have a look on there. I have also been thinking about doing a kind of lesson plan with me type video, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously, I need to kind of get settled into my class first and see what's actually happening, but yeah, I might do one of those videos, and if it works, you'll see it soon. The next questions that I had were more kind of organisation based, and this is perhaps the most important part of your placement. You need to be organised. There's no two ways about it. There is so much happening all the time, and the only way that you're going to be able to cope with that is by being organised. And it's incredibly important because not only is it affecting you, but if you're not organised, that is affecting the pupils in your class, your support teacher, any additional support staff that are in. You need to be organised, and that's just the bottom line. I'd say that I'm a pretty naturally organised person. I've always liked things to be in order, and luckily that has kind of followed me through my education to where I am now. But it can be a task. You do need to stay on top of it, and especially during placement, you need to sort yourself out. I'd say number 1, definitely get a diary if you don't have one already. It is an absolute lifesaver, and if you're able to see things written down, there's not going to be as much flying around all at the one time, and you're going to be able to just brain fart down onto a page. If you're quite a visual person, definitely get some coloured pens or coloured highlighters, because that's going to help you organise your day more. You could have a certain colour for different lessons or anything like that, and it just makes it a lot easier. If you're expected to keep a placement folder, definitely get that sorted before you get out into placement. Get some different dividers, get yourself sorted, because if you rock in on the first day and you just start to shove stuff in, it's all going to get lost amongst each other. So make sure that you have that kind of base down already. I'm going to be doing a flip through of my old placement folder from last year because that has been quite heavily requested. So that video will be coming soon. You can see what a kind of finished folder looks like and how I've chosen to organise mine. But I was also thinking of doing a separate video where I set up my folder for this year. So if you'd like to see that, do let me know. Other tips for organisation, I'd say have a plan in your head of what you're going to do when you get home rather than just coming home and trying to do random bits and bobs. Like I said earlier in the video, I always came home and I did my daily reflections, and then I did anything that I needed to tie up from that day. Then I did the planning for the following day, and that just kind of like gives your evening a bit of a sequence and makes sure that you're not forgetting anything. Lists are always a massive plus. I am a complete list maker. If you watch any of my videos, you'll probably know this already. But I always get home and just write down a list of everything that I need to do, and that helps me stay on top of things. This is also the point in the video I'd like to say if any of you have any organisation tips, definitely leave them down below in the comment section, because not only will they help me out, but they will help everyone else watching this video. Whether you are a student teacher, an actual teacher, a bog standard member of the public, anything that helps you stay organised, pop it down below. And I then have a few questions that are a little bit more specific, so I thought I would answer those individually. The first being, how does the mentor visit work? What are you expected to do / any tips, and how is it assessed? So at my university, the University of Aberdeen, our first tutor visit was actually in third year. We didn't have one in second year, mainly because it was just kind of finding our feet. And last semester was when I had my first and only visit so far. And the way that that worked is we got alerted as to when our visit was going to be, and depending on the time of the visit we would either go down and get the tutor and bring them to the class before the pupils were in, or if it was kind of in the middle of the day and the pupils were in the middle of a lesson, they would be brought up by someone else. Your tutor will then come in and observe you taking a lesson for around half an hour, and depending on the way that the lesson is structured, they can have like a wander around. If the pupils are doing work independently, they will watch how you interact with the pupils and just kind of get an overall feel of you in that classroom environment. On my tutor visit this year, I was expecting my tutor to stay for like half an hour. She actually only stayed for 15 minutes and then left, which kind of freaked me out because I was like, oh my god, she's just left. This lesson was horrible. I've failed. But in actual fact, she just thought that she'd seen enough of what I was doing and wanted to kind of get on with the rest of it. So she then left, went down to another room within the school and had a little interview chat with my support teacher. I suppose this is where they just kind of talk about how the rest of the placement's been going, how I've been in the classroom, like how I am with all of the pupils on a day-to-day basis and stuff. And then after the lesson was finished, I was then asked to go down to the same room. The support teacher then went back to take another lesson while I was away, and I then had a chat with my tutor. And after that was all over, that's when you get told if you've passed or failed. I passed my last one. I'm so happy about it. The lesson did go really well. And this is basically just an opportunity for the tutor to kind of talk things over with you, see where you're at, see what your next steps are. And I was really pleasantly surprised with how my tutor visit went. I was actually quite worried about it. I did get quite nervous beforehand, but it was fine. Like at the end of the day, you're so focused on your lesson and the class that you're not really worried about who's watching you. If you do have a tutor visit coming up soon, I would say prep is key. If you've planned a good lesson and you're organised and you know what to do in that lesson, you're not going to get yourself in a flap about it. You're going to go in and you're going to do it, and it's going to be like any other lesson. And that is what you want. Obviously little things can come up throughout the day, and that is inevitable, but no one is expecting perfection. Like, people that have been teaching for years and years and years don't do perfect lessons all the time. As long as your tutor can see that you're trying and that you're taking on feedback and that you're willing to learn and that you do have some form of control over your class, you will be fine. The next question is, how did you choose a focus child? And literally when I did mine, I sat down with my support teacher and mentioned what I had to do and that I had to choose a support child, and she basically pointed to one and went, use that one. So I didn't really have much in a say in it whatsoever. And when I did my target child study, that was in my first semester last year when I was on my placement from hell. So I didn't really want to cause a scene. I didn't want to ask why I had to do it on that child. I just said okay and I did it. But I actually ended up really loving that child, so I can't complain. But yeah, definitely just sit down with your support teacher, talk over what it is that you need to do, and they'll be able to steer you in the right direction of who they think is appropriate and go from there. The next question is, do they pay for your public transport if you're placed far away? And I think there is a way to do this. I have never looked into it in the past. I'm pretty sure that all the documentation that you need to get your hands on in relation to stuff like this will be alongside all of your other placement information. I personally have never looked into it purely because I just can't be bothered with the faff of it. But if you are at Aberdeen Uni, go onto the little student placement area of My Aberdeen, have a little click around. I'm sure you'll find the form that you need there. And if not, speak to partnership because they're going to be able to sort it all out for you. I'm sure it's something like you need to keep a hold of your receipts and stuff and they're able to sort it out from there, but I don't really know. And the final question that I received is actually from a friend of my course saying, how do I survive it? And honestly, Kirsty, we're just gonna need to do it. 100% the most nerve-wracking bit of placement is before you get there and you've not met your class and you don't know what you're going to be getting yourself in for. Like, I am so excited but nervous to meet my class for the first time, and especially the teacher, like, oh. As I'm filming this, it is a Monday, and next Monday I will be in my class. I will have met everyone and I really just hope it goes to plan. The people that you're surrounded with on your placement really do make or break it, so fingers crossed that it will all go to plan. Hopefully we will survive it, I'm sure we will. Time for another crazy ride. But there we have it. I'm going to stop this video here. Once again, I have ranted on. I honestly just seem to have so much to say about everything. Help. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you have any requests for placement related videos, student teacher related videos in the future, leave them down below because I have a few up my sleeve, but if there's something that you want to see, I want to know about it. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do because it would mean the absolute world. Have a little click around. I do some different types of videos here and there, so see if it's what you fancy and definitely stick around if it is. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon with another video. Goodbye.